You're listening to the New Old Heads podcast, shot live every Tuesday at twitch.tv/newoldheads and released every Thursday at noon via bringingdowntheband.com. The show is brought to you by Coleman Dental, Printfinity, Indie CD and Vinyl. Support the show directly by becoming a member at patreon.com/newoldheads.
You're now tuned in to the New Old Heads podcast. I am Major 7. I'm here. My man Jay Moore is in the building. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Got up this morning, which means I'm doing better than a lot of other people.
I like that. The conductor is here. My man Longevity. How are you, sir?
Doing all right, man.
This is a first.
Thanks.
This is a first for anyone that has followed us from actually our beginning. Lone has never, and I repeat, never worn a hat on an episode. So it took us 320, I'm going to get it wrong.
8 today.
8? Is 8 today?
Now, technically, I did wear like a little beanie hat a couple weeks ago.
I wore a full ski mask one week.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
that was classic. I like a screenshot of that if we can. I don't know what era in the episodes that is.
You had to take it off after a while.
Yeah,
I think.
it got too hot, right?
He was muffling the mic.
So it just didn't work.
Because that was around the time of Kodak, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think that's why we did that.
That had something to do with.
Yeah.
I mean, he stays in the news, so.
I hope so. Well, actually, I don't hope he stayed in the news.
No,
I hope so.
Because he said, his lawyer tried to say, "Hey, Kodak, he tested positive for fentanyl." It said, but the lab guy came to court and said, this could have been a mix-up. You're like, oh, okay. And then they said, will you submit to a hair test right now? And basically he's like, I'm going to go do 30 days in rehab. I'm not trying to do all that.
And there is your answer. Shout out to the homie DJ Jay Diff as well. He sat out tonight's show, but still want to show the homie love. Shout out to the homie Red August as well. A little under the weather, but we appreciate y'all. Let's talk 20-year anniversary of an album that I call a classic. And actually, I remember listening to it for the first time and being like, these dudes are about to be the next guys. So listening from Little Brother makes me feel real old that this is 20 years old, this album. They had an interview with GQ and an interview with Rolling Stone talking about the anniversary. And I pulled a couple of the comments that I thought that stood out. I don't have a subscription to Rolling Stone because, one, we always laugh at their list. But somebody sent me a screenshot of one of the questions that was asked, and I thought we had to put this one in there. But here's something that jumped out to me. In the GQ article, Big Pooh said that the minstrel show wasn't fun for him. And Fonte said this was the first time that he had ever heard him say that. It was in the interview. And Pooh said, no, it wasn't fun, man. It wasn't fun at all. I think for me, it was just between the pressure of what ended up being a major label debut, our own our internal struggles that we were having, figuring out life, being 24 years old, and the things were just moving fast as F for me at the time. But he said he didn't even like recording the minstrel show. Now, I can see that because they had just got to Atlantic, so the pressure was, that's different from recording and listening at college, right? So we go to Atlantic and it's popping now. But I've never heard him say, I've never heard about that. The fact that Fonte didn't know, that was crazy. Like that one caught me off guard.
Maybe he didn't.
Would you guys have thought?
Maybe he didn't realize it at the time, though.
That's true.
Maybe like reflecting back, he's just like, man,
I really didn't enjoy that.
Yeah.
I love that album too, man. So the fact that, he said he didn't really enjoy it is crazy, but we all creative, so we know it doesn't always go, as planned when you're making stuff. What you think, Jay? Did that kind of shock you a little bit?
Thing is, like, a lot of times, like, what you're doing and how music marks time, like, you don't know what someone is going through.
That's true.
That transition, you're talking about, okay, 24 years old, that's a real... I remember when I was 24 and it was like, what am I doing with my life? Should I have more?
That's basically what
he's
saying.
Am I right where I need to be? Am I appreciated for who I am or just what I can provide to other people? You're really trying to figure it out. When people think, if anybody who's super young hears this, and because to me, 24 is super young.
Definitely.
Just because you don't think you got to figure it out. Look, I'm 45. I'll be 46 in April.
Yeah.
I don't have anything figured out.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I know that I have more figured out, but there's so much left to figure out.
Yeah. I mean, I at one point I thought, okay, the career I was in, I'm going to do this, going forward, and it just
ride out in the
out.
sunset. Huh?
Then like the next job I got after that, I'm like, oh, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
That didn't work out. Like if you'd have told me that I'd be doing what I'm doing now, I'd have been like, that's nowhere in my career path.
Exactly.
So
Coming out of college is that's not necessarily right out of, but you know, in the ballpark, internship or something like that. Coming out of college is a lot different.
And plus, you know, they're probably when you're Atlantic, that you're at a major label system. You're on the same label as T.I.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so you're looking at, I think that's, you know, if
I feel him on the pressure.
But, you know, like, just think about it. Your first album, you know, that we're talking about, the listening, you're able to sit down with your friends and create, and you get to Atlantic, you got A&Rs coming to you, and people from the labels like, we need something.
We got to turn the album in. They have to listen to it, critique it, and all that type of stuff.
I don't know if this is going to work. What about this artwork? And, hey, could you put something like this? Can you give us something from the radio? And then maybe it's something we can send to College Mix Show, and then we can do this.
And they weren't making records like that on the Minstrel Show. You know what I'm saying?
No, they weren't making. They didn't come from making records like that on listening.
True.
But then again, like, you know, the people who they consider to be their heroes, like 𝗏𝗏 was able to find a way to get on the radio.
True.
You know, De La Soul, even to a certain extent, was able to get on the radio. The Fugees were able to get on the radio. You know, so they can say, hey, could you do something like what they did? And you're like, this is what we're setting out to do. So I can imagine the creative process when you mix it with corporate interest can be. It doesn't sound fun at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't sound fun at all. So I can feel him. And that may not be the reasons why he considered it not to be fun, but I could see that if he told me that was the reason, I would completely believe him and understand.
I can 100% see the pressure, major label pressure. I can see that for sure. Now, this one I saw, this is just an excerpt from Rolling Stone, and they asked, how involved is Ninth Wonder in the documentary process? Phonte answered, we reached out to him for an interview, and he hasn't responded. So... Well, here's my thing, and then I'll come to y'all. My thing is, I'm not that surprised about this because obviously they've been going through stuff, right? This is documented at this point. I mean, Pooh just talked about our internal struggles, and that was way back then. So clearly this has been building up, right? But to not even respond, not versus just saying, Lone, you know what? I just don't want to be interviewed, man. Like, I hope the project goes well, but I'm just not feeling talking about it at this time. I don't think I want to be involved. To not responding? Bro, that's, I don't know. Is it that kid? I mean, but
they've alluded to things like this before.
They have, but we
just aren't tight like that.
We've talked about.
May the Lord watch. I mean, that's why, you know, I don't know if that has anything to do with this.
Right.
But, you know, I mean.
Because remember, during that whole May the Lord watch run, they're like, well, you know.
It started off as.
Well, because Ninth Wonder was also, you know, it was between, he wanted to do all the production.
All the beats, yep.
And then it was like, well, if we're going to tour, I'll do the big stuff.
Right.
And, you know, all these all small. He wasn't really trying to tour when they had the Minstrel Show out.
That's true.
That was something that was a bit of a struggle between them.
That's true.
So by the time it got to the third, if you will, Little Brother album, yeah,
Get Back. Was it
Left Back? I don't know.
I think Get Back then Left Back.
Yeah,
I don't know. I always get those confused.
Yeah,
and so he was. I mean, he did some production, but he was not there as far as a member of the group anymore. I just thought it would have been a little bit more just courtesy from a standpoint of just saying I don't want to be involved, but Phonte said he ain't even responded yet.
That's interesting.
And he's got his own life, and like I said,
Ninth was in Indianapolis last couple days. So I mean,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's all over the place. So I mean, maybe it was last week, but still.
Who am I to say he's not busy? He's running a label. He's got artists. So
he's teaching.
He's teaching, professor. So far be it for me to tell the man what to do. But,
might have been the wrong email. Might have been. You don't know.
Numbers
change.
I think I would say that he
would have heard.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he at least knows that they reached out, I think. Now, to not answer, are you that busy? I don't know. Are you that busy to respond to your brothers just to be like, yo, I'm cool, but I appreciate y'all, I love y'all, it's all right.
But then again, maybe they already have that relationship to just know, if they reached out, if he's not doing it, then we're like, all right, cool. That's where Ninth stands because they know Ninth probably better than we do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's, if that's how he feels, and they're probably just like, cool. The show's going to go on.
Yeah.
Regardless.
I respect them for not getting hung up and, trying to chase and come on, man. It doesn't sound like that at all. It's like, to Lone's point, it's like, all right, well, we're going to keep it moving.
Yeah.
I respect that.
What else can you do at that point,
Yeah.
So.
And then the last one I pulled was they asked about them when they came out being standard bearers and typically rapping for the college educated real hip hop crowd, but they were also being pitted against people like T.I. and Mike Jones and that era. And they asked, when you look back at it, do you think that that the idea of that hurt or helped their career. So Fonte said it definitely was a gift and a curse. He said some of it was by our doing. He said on our first record, the Yo-Yo, I'm pretty much skewering the whole effing boho coffee shop ish. He said, but then to do a concept like the minstrel show where we're still skewering something, it's kind of a satire, but we're hitting on elements like class and race and things of that nature and bigger conversations. He said that even became a conversation that for him, he really didn't even want to be a part of. He said they weren't anti-gangster. They weren't anti-whatever. We were just anti-effing whack. That's what we were. He's like, just don't be corny. He's like, I think that's what got lost in the whole thing. So I like that answer because they never really said they weren't anything. That was kind of, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of pushed on them as the backpackers. Well, also, would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's true because it's also at the same time, you got to realize they're from North Carolina.
Right.
It's the northern part of the South, but it's still the South.
Yep.
Right. And, there's an old Fonte interview with him with the Red Bull Music Academy where he talks about that even a little bit, even further about, like say, oh yeah, you guys are actually saying stuff, not like the rest of the South. Or something like that. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, what's that supposed to mean? Like we're illiterate or something? Like we're from the South, so, I mean, that's interesting.
I think a lot of times once again, it's the media sometimes because they try to pit, Little Brother against snap music, whatever was out at the time.
Yeah.
Because
I fell for it. I was like, these guys are going to save rap. I'm excited. I love it. They cut from a cloth. I was one of those people. I ain't gonna lie.
You were loving it?
I see what you did there.
Midwest said they loving it.
Well played.
No,
I was loving it.
But I do think,
except Joe Scudder part. I ain't love that.
Well.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well.
Sorry. Yeah, put it in the comments. I don't care. Yeah. He wasn't needed on that record. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I think part of it is, like, there's always this kind of wave of, like, no, this is the new standard of blackness sometimes in music, and this is what we should follow. And it's like I remember at one point when the neo soul thing came along, and they were trying to almost pit that against like the more corporate R&B that would have been like Mary J. Blige or whoever was out at the time, and it was like, no, we like all of this.
Right.
You don't have to do that. Just because these people, they might wear their hair a certain way, or they got clothes they look like they made it home. Like we shouldn't like them more, just as opposed to the people who are wearing Versace glasses. Sometimes we do play class warfare.
Yeah.
Instead of actually caring about the art, we start to care about the image. And here it is, guys who are college educated.
Yeah.
We're at a HBCU.
Yep.
And then, you're trying to compare them and kind of pit them, if you will, against people who graduated from the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's always been things like that. The difference between, Motown and what they were doing at Stax. These not sometimes like regional differences, but cultural differences, because just, black folks are not a monolith.
True.
We have so many different experiences, and we bring so many different things to our artistic expression. And sometimes we wind up saying, okay, well, it's not like those dudes on the West Coast, or it's not like those dudes who are doing the street rap in New York. It's this, and you should be into this, and this is going to be the future of this. And it's like, at the end of the day, none of us know what the future of anything is going to be.
There's people that, matter of fact, I've actually had this conversation with people that classify Little Brother as an East Coast group, like versus coming from the South.
Because of their sound?
Because of their sound. But I was, the discussion I was having was, man, Fonte's one of the illest out the South. He is.
Mm-hmm. That's what it is.
But they were like, nah, he ain't from the South, man. He's more East Coast. I said, no, he's not. They from North Carolina. That's the South. It ain't the South. It's the South.
But their style.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like Little Brother doesn't, especially early on, didn't have a very East Coast sound. Because,
they did.
Because Ninth Wonder is from that school. Mm-hmm. When you think about how the records were chopped.
Yep.
And all that stuff, and
drum
it's very boom bap. It wasn't. He's not. I'm not saying he's not drawing inspiration from Organized Noise, but he's drawing more inspiration from Primo, even though he's from Houston. But Pete Rock and Large Professor and all those guys. So
I agree.
I don't know. Like, I can see the conversation, and when you rap over boom bap style tracks, even if you are more Southern styled as a rapper, you're going to sound a little bit
more East Coast,
like the East Coast. It's just what it is. So, I mean,
geographically, it's correct, but what you said is also 100% correct, because they did not sound like what was T.I. He had just mentioned T.I. and Mike Jones. They didn't sound nothing like that.
No, they didn't. No, they sounded completely different. And a lot of it was due to the production, not necessarily, how they were talking or anything like that.
Could they have sounded good on other types of production? Yes.
And they
would it have been Little Brother, though? I don't think so. But, I don't think it would have been as cohesive as it was.
They fit into a very interesting mold of being from the South with a very sample-based type of influence. So it's very unique in that aspect, I would say.
For sure.
Well, I mean, it's just like, we talk about, it's the South. Well, man, what is the South? Because Atlanta's music doesn't sound like New Orleans music.
It does.
Texas music doesn't sound like North Carolina music. We just like to blanket every. See, the thing is, a lot of times we try to go with the visual aesthetic that we get. Okay,
right.
We see that they got a bunch of girls scantily clad, and they got a bunch of cars and jewelry and gold teeth. We're like, and you think that encompasses the entire region of the South.
Yep.
And it just doesn't.
No,
it just doesn't.
Memphis sounds different from Florida.
Yeah,
True.
exactly.
Different parts of Florida. So
there are parts. Memphis don't sound nothing like Nashville. You know what I'm saying?
You might be right.
Same state.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 or 4 hours apart. And so I think that's part of where I think we just blanket the South with a particular. If there was something we did out of the South we didn't like or we didn't find pleasing, we thought was ignorant, we just have blanketed the entire South with that, and it's not fair.
I'm guilty. I used to. I'm definitely guilty of that.
Like if you were outside and Master P hit and Master P was everywhere, that sound or in the way those individuals wrote lyrics and put together their cadences, that exemplifies the South to you. And that's just because that's what you didn't like, and you've kind of put on these blinders to everything else in the South. And then when you hear something that you like and you're saying, "Oh, that sounds like the East Coast," it's like with No Limit, because you don't want to admit that you like this. You like music from the South.
It's the prime example would be just like you said with Texas and New Orleans. It's Scarface didn't sound anything like No Limit. The Ghetto Boys didn't sound nothing like No Limit to me.
Outkast didn't sound nothing like No Limit.
Thank you. They didn't.
Suave House. I'm saying there's so many different sounds that come out
of the South.
And you got to think about when you talk about the South, how much real estate that covers.
Yeah, Texas is huge.
You're talking about 2 different time zones. You know what I'm saying? Because Pimp C was like, how you gonna be from the South and you got on the Eastern time zone? You know what I'm saying? But
I remember that interview. Yeah, he was hot.
I just think a lot of times people are like, well, I like this, so it can't be from the South. I mean, like Dilla is clearly influenced by the East Coast, but Detroit ain't nowhere near the East Coast
at all.
So a lot of times people they're so into their hip hop being purists, and that everything originates out of the 5 boroughs, and it's like they have to say, oh well, this is East Coast, influence or whatever. I was like, yeah, but they did this in Detroit off of 8 Mile.
True. Nate Jeezy's in the chat. He says Ghostface hates Iron Man. We talked about that a while back. He said Redman hates There's a Dark Side. Happens sometime from the creative standpoint, like we talking about the artist and Pooh not being,
Look, I saw a thing where Music Soul Child doesn't care for almost any of his hit records,
which is ridiculous to me because he has great records.
And he had a run as far as like that whole, if you want to neo soul, which I hate that term. I hate all anything gangster rap, whatever. That's for another time. But it's like. He doesn't like it. It's like it was a weird interview he did with Questlove when they talked about those records and how successful they were. And, he was talking about, well, I had all this other stuff that I wanted to do. But then, here comes Kevin Lyle saying, hey, this is the single. And I couldn't be happy about it.
Well, brother, there was some good
then
choices
that were made. Then after it goes to
number
one, I guess, you sell 2 million records. And it soothes the pain a little bit. But,
it definitely did. It definitely did.
But it's just crazy. Did you remember when you started hearing the stuff from the listening? Or were you able to actually get the CD?
Yeah, when I heard it, it was all pieced. It was pieced together in album forms. Like I didn't hear any of the, message board stuff or any of that. Like I heard just the whole album as is. Somebody, my dude, Carlo had a burnt CD. So we sat in the car and he's like, we have to sit down and listen to this whole thing right now. So what are you talking about? It's these dudes, man, they little brother and 𝗀𝗡𝗙 and Questlove love them and they getting vouched for and this. I said, all right, cool. So we sat down and listened to the whole album. And I was like, man, these dudes about to be it. So yeah, that's how I heard it.
Well, how about you, Sean? How did you hear it?
I don't even remember.
Okay.
No, I really don't. Like, I don't even know if I heard the minstrel show first or if it was the listening
first,
or what the process was. I remember I bought the minstrel show, but I don't.
Did you hear any of the like the Chitlin Circuit mixtapes or any of that stuff?
Yeah.
You heard those?
I mean, not in full. Like, this is Napster time, man.
You're right.
This is like, I heard a couple Napster forum, you know what I mean? Like, it was like, it wasn't like go out and
stream the whole project.
LimeWire was popping.
I don't even think this was like, I don't even think I could buy this album in Target, could I?
No,
you know what I mean?
probably not.
I mean, or
not the listening for sure.
No, I
even the minstrel show.
You're talking about I'm from a place in Anderson where we didn't have a lot of record stores. You know what I mean? We had a Karma
Records,
and we had a
Music Land,
but I don't even think that was there anymore. So it's like, yeah, I mean, most of it was internet time, or you had to order it online.
I drove to Indianapolis, right around the corner here. I think it's been closed and now it's a beauty supply shop.
Rockin' Billy's.
Yeah, that's where I had to buy the minstrel show from. I had to drive to Indianapolis to get it.
No,
I ordered mine online. So
no, because this is when my favorite part of the internet was the OK Player boards.
Fonte talked about that in
And
GQ too. I
just remember getting a song here, a song here. Somebody might have remixed something because there were some remixes. There was a remix of that's all right, whatever you say. Like they had a remix of that where they flipped whatever from Maxwell, turn that into like just a crazy flip.
I got a 𝐀𝐿𝐴 version of that.
Yeah, so you were able to get little bits and pieces, but then
which random note, but that's where 𝗀𝐿𝐴 and Fonte met, was the OK Player.
OK Player
boards. Yeah.
Turned into Foreign Exchange.
And then I went to, there was a independent record store in the U City Loop called Vintage Vinyl, and they had like a bunch of them for like $7.99.
A bunch of the project
of the listening.
Oh, okay.
And had I known what I know now, what I know then, I'd have bought all of them.
Yeah.
But and so I was able to just go, and plus I had a real tricky CD player in my car at the time. They couldn't burnt CDs didn't play like they were supposed to. So
had to have the right CDs.
Yeah, you had to, had to burn them like at a slow speed. It was a lot going on.
I mean, I used to go to the Walgreens and try to cop a pack. It'd be, you remember the circle spindles?
Oh, yeah.
I used to cop those.
There used to be a deal if you could get, say, like 50 blank CDs for $50.
Yeah.
I used to buy them all the time, man. Like, do you know how many beat CDs I have?
Yeah.
Like, just chilling it. Like,
yeah. And it's so crazy to think that, like, now, like, if you'd be like, oh, could you burn it to a CD? It's like, no, I can't. And for why?
My computer doesn't have a burner.
Exactly.
Mine doesn't have a CD drive, actually.
Or a drive. I'm sorry.
No,
this one
does.
does.
Drive at all.
This one does, but this one doesn't.
Mine didn't have a CD drive. So
but so I actually was able to buy a legit copy. Read the liner notes and have it and write around to it, and it was just like,
you definitely
this is it.
You should have copped like 4 or 5 of those.
Oh, if I'd have known then, yeah. Because then, like,
you can't find it now. I don't think.
No, because I went back like maybe 2 weeks later, and it was in there for like $17, $18. Somebody must have pulled them to the side and be like, because look, I was selling my mixtapes for more than $7.99. There's a whole album that I could get for.
Y'all need to go back through the episodes and hear Jay Moore talk about when he almost beat a DJ up for playing this.
I didn't beat nobody. I did not do that.
That ain't how it go? Okay.
That is not. Sorry. You listen to. Yeah, you got the wrong lesson from that story. I wasn't trying to beat nobody up for playing my mixtape in the club.
I still have, and like all my little brother songs, I actually have on that hard drive right there, but it's all from that era. Like I still have them, and I have a lot of stuff that just from their whole camp. Like the Chitlin circuits, all their mixtapes. I mean, they're my favorite group. You know what I mean? So like I have all that stuff.
What was the group that Rhapsody was in?
𝗀𝗡𝗄 𝗢𝗋.
𝗀𝗡𝗢.
Charlie Smarts, who was in 𝗀𝗡𝗢 𝗢, just dropped a new video a couple days ago. Out of 𝗀𝗡𝗢 𝗢, Charlie Smarts was my favorite.
It was, but to your point, that era though, those mixtapes and Separate but Equal and all the Chitlin circuits, and I remember hearing production from like Ill Mind was on those tapes back then, and so many producers that we would learn to know had heat. Knots was on there. They had a verse from like Big Daddy Kane on a joint.
I remember that. I got that one. I I have like every.
I know you do. I
like
remember
every Little Brother song, and some of them are probably not even great quality. But.
I used to ask Lone. I'd be like, "Hey man, burn me a CD." He had folders. He's organized folders, everything. So I would make my own CDs, and he just burn it. And I go home. I'd be hype in the car, listening to what you just burned.
I used to make MP3 CDs and
fill them up.
Oh yeah,
play them in the car.
Yep.
You put folders in them.
So I don't know if you already had a chance to read this. You got to bear with me on this one because this is going to be. I'm just trying to describe what I saw. I put the links in Discord if y'all want to reference it. But LL is explaining the meaning of some of his famous one-liners and sayings.
Mm-hmm.
This has nothing to do with anything I would have remotely thought he was talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is, I'm just going to go through some of them, and you know the record, you know the song, like you know it when you hear it. So he says, is she? And he has one I and like 5 S's, and the she is capitalized, and it has like 6 E's, and it says blow tissues, and it says can she get busy, and it has emojis. Y'all do the math on that.
Blow tissues.
So what did you think that it said, or what is the?
I just thought this was just something either stupid or I just
remember
didn't get
Terry
it.
talking about this once. I feel like we talked about this line specific because Terry was like, "What is he even saying?"
I used to just be like, I don't know what he's saying. This don't sound too cool, but maybe it means something. But I never understood what that means. So as we continue, Jay Moore, he says 𝗀𝐄𝐲, the letter V. He says that means the car ride smooth like it's on skis. Would you have ever seen that?
He could have made all this up just before he was interviewed.
I don't think so. I think he's serious.
Skeevy, delicious.
I think he's dead serious.
Okay.
Look, he had time to think about it.
Because I'm like, I of all the people I've been around and all around the world, and nobody say, yeah, man, this car's skeevy as hell.
I'm just saying, man. He says like it's smooth, like it's riding on skis.
Okay.
That actually makes sense, though. I give him that. That makes more sense.
Yes, but let's continue.
Ain't that more doable?
I suppose, yeah.
You ever been on skis?
I mean, yeah, but maybe it's some straight Farmers Boulevard. Maybe his slang didn't move
just
past that.
I don't know what the lingo is out there, so maybe he on to something.
I'm not gonna. Yeah.
All right, so delicious.
Okay.
Says give me
couscous.
Yeah, give me couscous, and it has a couple emojis.
Yeah. Water splashing and looks like a peach.
Give me couscous, love me good. Damn.
Yep. Thanks, Lone. It says love me good. Heart emoji as an arm strong sign. Damn. Hollis to Hollywood. That means sex in the whole trip.
Hollis to Hollywood, but is he good?
You see that, Jay Moore?
But is he good?
But is he good? Laugh out loud. You do the math on that part.
No.
I'm gonna read this again, Jay Moore.
No, I mean I don't have to. I listened to the song several times.
Hollis to Hollywood means sex in the whole trip, brother.
Yeah, I mean it's from one side of the country to the other, but you got to get in some sleep and maybe get a meal.
Okay.
I mean, even if you take a private jet, you don't have to worry about layovers. It's like, damn.
Okay, man.
All right, I'll take that. Now, pink cookies in a plastic bag.
Okay.
All right, is when you literally turn the peach emoji
inside out. So you're killing it.
Y'all both took a long
So
time.
you're killing it.
Yeah, so because I'm not trying to get demonetized.
Then it says looks like pink cookies. Laugh out loud.
Pink cookies in a plastic bag.
Jay Moore is rolling his eyes. Getting crushed by buildings is standing carrying your partner.
Then tossing them on the bed at the height of the O. That's getting crushed by buildings.
Pink cookies in a plastic bag. Getting crushed by buildings.
Jay Moore, your thoughts?
What kind of like this?
Keep in mind now, this might be lingo. It might be just swag from LA. I mean, LL. It might be.
No, yeah, this is just from him because didn't nobody else would even know what he was talking about. This, or you see, he wouldn't have to be trying to decipher it now.
Could have been just clever wordplay, bro.
Could it be? Because we got to know the words.
You said clever.
Skeevy is clever.
Is it?
Yeah, that's clever.
Is it?
I like Skeevy.
Okay, I'm gonna need you to start using that on.
I'll use it. I'll use it next week.
Streets.
You're gonna be skeevying home.
Yep, I'm gonna be like, man.
And then you want to explain to everybody you say skeevy to.
Like, yo, man,
is it delicious?
And then somebody,
I'm not gonna say that
part.
part.
Somebody's gonna be like, stop stealing LL's words.
Man, I'm gonna be like, man, I just pulled up.
Hold on.
The ride was skeevy. That's how you use it.
Getting crushed by buildings is standing carrying your partner, then tossing them on the bed at the height
of
that doesn't even make sense.
The height of the O.
Crushed by buildings.
Yes.
Where's buildings in this? The person is a building?
I'm assuming the person might be the building.
So like it's so
you just fall.
The building is just crumbling.
You know that. No, man. I don't think it's
what
that.
What if you were like a little woman and she, you fall on her, then you don't want to do all that.
Oh, you
can't just be lifting these women's up in the air, throwing them down on the bed, and then
at the height of the O,
falling on them.
I don't know what that.
You just fall down, just like the building's getting blown up. That's what's happening, and then you just fall. Who's supposed to know this?
Yeah,
I mean, it could be just wordplay, man, like clever wordplay.
Look, I always assumed it was something sexual, even when I heard it back in high school.
You didn't know it was this in depth, though.
I don't.
Long said I don't. Y'all got to give him a little piece.
Do we?
Maybe, are you sure he just wasn't like doing some Ghostface stuff off
this was
Supreme
off
Clientele?
14 shot for
Ghostface. Now go back and listen to Nutmeg.
Are you sure he just wasn't Ghostface and Supreme Clientele and decided to make up some stuff afterwards?
Skeevy works.
He's had a long time to make up some stuff.
He has. I agree. But
Skeevy
works.
Is. Ghostface bring up ZD. I'd be like, okay, I feel you on that.
I mean,
but Skeevy.
Skeevy makes sense. Now the rest of them,
I take ZD over Skeevy.
Okay. ZD makes more sense than Skeevy, but Skeevy is the best on this list. Is that okay? When we say that, Skeevy makes the most sense out of all of this.
I think pink cookies in a plastic bag can kind of make sense.
No, you don't.
If there's a bar afterwards that describes it a little bit. Otherwise, it's like
the bar goes pink cookies in a plastic bag, getting crushed by buildings.
Somebody should have pulled LL to the side.
All right, so maybe if the pink cookies have died because they're in a plastic bag, right?
Okay, so
they died because the building crushed them. The building crushed. It goes into metaphor. It kind of makes sense.
I'm not about to do this with you, man.
Think about it. Pink cookies in a plastic bag.
Getting crushed by buildings.
The pink cookies are in a plastic bag because they got crushed by the buildings.
Yeah, they got to carry those because they're dead.
Yeah, they're dead.
They're in the body bag. You got to get them out of here.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying it's a good bar, but I'm saying it kind of makes sense if you.
It was on 14 shots to the dome. LL was going through a transitional period artistically. He was just trying stuff.
That record probably had how many joints on that project?
I think we're
good
trying.
Ones?
We're trying really hard.
Oh, they tripping in the chat.
No, I'm just saying we're trying really hard to make sense out of this.
Yeah, I'm trying.
No, 14 shots to the dome.
How many dope records is on the album?
First of
obviously,
all,
this was one of them.
Well, yeah, but this is the one that we know is the remix. The one that's on the album is actually pretty terrible.
That's true.
And Backseat of My Jeep.
Backseat of My Jeep was dope.
After that, you can keep everything.
All the rest of it.
It's one of those LL albums I try to act like didn't happen.
Now I got to go
back.
It's
kind of like with New Edition, Under the Blue Moon. I try to act like that album didn't happen.
I remember when I
don't even acknowledge that album. Go ahead.
I was playing that album and Terry's like, "No, you don't need that one."
Oh, we're talking about New Edition
because it's like
you don't start there.
Old school
the doo-wop album.
Yeah. The cover is even. Yeah, you can skip over that one. You don't need that one.
I was gonna do like a Lone Love series, but New Edition, but only sample the doo-wop album.
I would not have liked that project at all because
I tried.
You could turn it into something, but it's just not enough there.
You know what? I wouldn't even know because I haven't listened to the album since it came out. In like 1986.
Oh, so Ronnie Darko says, "Oh, is that what it is?" Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. So thanks, LL, but I don't know if your explanations made anything better.
I mean, I think the pink cookies in a plastic bag getting crushed by buildings kind of makes sense.
Ronnie Darko just said it straight though. Said it straight in there. They said it. He said it straight.
It's condom sex.
Yeah, that's what it is. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you get it now? You get it?
No,
bag?
No, because I was thinking no. Ain't got to do a condom.
I don't think it does either.
No,
because he said then tossing them on the bed at the height of the. No, I don't think so.
Pink cookies is when you got that thing. Let me stop. Let me stop.
Way to catch yourself, brother.
Yeah, I don't know. This is an interesting segment right here. This is about as close as we can get.
I laughed so hard when I read this.
We have to dark.
Because there's some more. I got more questions, but we can't really get into those. This is on the radio, so we can't do that. And it would be Smooth Hoosier that says, "Oh man, I like the New Edition album." Figures because he likes Cocaine Bear, so that's right on brand for him. It's like Cocaine Bear and the Blue Moon album. So makes sense. Smooth Hoosier. I'm not surprised, buddy.
Just awful.
Pink cookies are. See now.
Yep.
See you saw it.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
see Ryan. I don't know if we can go that far, man. I don't
Just
know.
if you're watching along, you can just
look
read
in the chat.
comments. Just read the comments.
He's breaking it down.
I mean, I don't know, man.
What he just said. Well, that makes sense though.
We had to explain this. This is too much of an explanation.
Darko making some sense though on the low.
Maybe
Making
man.
some sense.
Maybe I mean,
Man,
look,
we even got the face palm.
look, I'll tell you this, man.
I'm the high one.
You
here.
give me 2 bars of anything, and I'll make it make sense, even if it doesn't. I can figure something out.
Final word. Is LL trolling or is this legit? In your honest opinion,
Honestly, this is what he was probably on his mind at the time. And he
I
was
think
like,
it's legit.
he probably just said, "Why not?"
This is some Ghostface stuff.
Okay, but you're saying it's valid. Like he really was thinking this.
I don't know. I don't care.
Look, I'll take him.
I was
You
waiting
know
on
what?
that.
I'll take LL at his word.
I'll take it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
That's what I mean. I don't care. I mean, if this
Yeah.
is what he said it was, cool. It's just apparently it wasn't executed. If we're still talking about what it means in 2023.
Hey, shout out to the people that started this conversation because I never would have asked this nor cared enough to try to deep dive.
Look,
but
I mean, think about it. He maybe, who knows who spawned this question, because we talked about this specifically on the show
Terry,
3 years ago.
to your point, Terry is like, what does that mean? What does that even mean? What does that mean?
Skeevy delicious.
Yeah. Skeevy is the best one on this list.
Anyways,
All right, man. Let's can we shout out our partners real quick, sir?
certainly.
Why not?
Thanks to our partners. Dr. Coleman of Coleman Dental is our go-to dentist. He's a longtime Indianapolis arts and music supporter located right in Broad Ripple. Printfinity is a screen printing shop based in Indianapolis, owned and operated by our own DJ Jay Diff. Our good friends at Indie CD and Vinyl operate one of the best record stores in North America. Shop new and used in their site or visit them in person. And the best way to support the New Old Heads is to visit our Patreon and become a member for as little as $3 a month. All details on newoldheads.com.
All right, we are back. Shout out to our partners as always. Shout out to the chat.
No.
Uh,
There once was a man
Now.
who lived by a cow, and he said, how now, brown cow?
Shoot, that'd have got you signed in like. Here's a time.
I got the article right
They'd
here.
be like,
now.
"Give it up. What you got to do his #1 song, Brown Cow."
I got a brown cow, and the brown cow was like meow meow because it's not a cat anymore.
Oh my God, man.
But it used to be a cat back in the day.
Chill.
But it
man.
wasn't a horse because it didn't like hay.
Yeah,
No,
see,
no,
there
no.
you go. See,
No,
there
no,
you
no.
go. This is exactly how hits are written.
Oh, man.
All right, man. So let's talk sample snitching.
Okay.
AI is out here in these streets.
Stop fouling me like that. We're gonna be fighting out here.
And Allen Iverson.
Not a
Allen Iverson, man.
shout out to that AI. AI is just fine. He ain't in the streets. But this artificial
not anymore.
yeah. But this new stuff is getting bad out here. So there's a Discord group that has found a huge sampling loophole, right? So when I say huge, once I read it, you'll see what I'm talking about. And the lead-in says the days of hiding samples are over. A community of sample hunters discovered a smart way to utilize Google Assistant's song recognition. Did I say it right? Recognition.
Recognition.
Sorry, recognition. To excavate samples. Even chops less than a second long aren't safely camouflaged from it. This is crazy. Lone, you know how small some of these chops are. So if this can be detected, it's a wrap.
This is a long article that I'm going to want to read.
Check this out. It says
I'm going to post this in our Discord. So if you're following along at home or anywhere you're at, you can join our Discord and find this article. So
check this out. A member, there's a sample hunting member named DJ Pasta who found out a new way to utilize the technology to the fullest. This is what he said. He said, "I figured out a method to run audio directly from my PC into Google Assistant with a software called BlueStacks." He said, "I was mostly trying to find out a few 𝗏𝗏 samples that he had been looking for." And he says, to his surprise, Google Assistant's song recognition found most of the samples, no matter if they were chopped up, small, loops. This is crazy. You already have sites like Who Sample.
Yeah, more snitching.
But now AI can just find it. It's almost like Shazam. You know, you can Shazam and find the name of the record.
Yeah.
The way he just described it from a technical standpoint, I would have never thought that. That's more something I think Lone would probably have stumbled up on just out of our personalities because he's MacGyver when it comes to that. But Lone as a producer and somebody that chops samples very well and just has, you've produced for a long time. What's up with this, man? How does this make you feel? Are you interested? I'm
kind of oblivious to it too. Here's what I'll say.
Okay.
I literally had this conversation. Now, for those who's listening that don't know, even though I think everybody that's listening probably does know, I teach music production.
Talk to them.
And so every once in a while, like in the amateur course or the second 12 weeks of the class that I teach, we talk about sampling pretty extensively. And in that, literally in the last week, I was talking about how I started off as a sample producer. That's what I did, but I don't really sample much anymore because I know how technology's going. And it makes way more sense if you can create dope stuff without samples to go that route, because the legal ramifications that you could potentially run into down the line is something I don't even want to think about dealing with anymore.
Especially if the record pops off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But even if it doesn't. So think about where we're at right now, right? Mm-hmm. So if you may or may not, if you're listening and you're a musician and if you're listening and you're a musician, you still may not know this, but YouTube has a content ID system. Mm-hmm. And the content ID system is ran actually through a third party for most labels, and it's really good, and it has been really good. So if you have a song with samples in it already, YouTube can already pick up. Okay, I'm all over the place, but let me tell you a story just from back in 2014. I had an album that I did, an instrumental project that I put on YouTube, and it was called Reverb. And on this, I chopped the sample, and I don't remember what it was, but I used a loop in the beginning portion of it. And I had it uploaded to YouTube. 2 years later, I got a copyright notification on this song, not from the original artist, but from somebody else who had chopped it the same portion that I had.
Wait, say that again.
So I had chopped this record.
Okay.
From a sample from the 70s. It was an Italian sample. And another person chopped the same exact thing, looped it up. It wasn't a chop, it was more like a loop. Uh-huh. And what they did is they had Content ID attached to their project. I didn't. So my song, every time it gets played, pays this person.
Wow.
So if you think about it from that angle, this is 5, 6, 7 years ago. That was the moment for me where I was like, oh, okay. If this is a thing, I definitely need to move faster towards making my stuff more original, because don't get me wrong, I still sample, but I don't loop.
That's what I was about to say.
I haven't looped in a very long time. It's stuff pieced together. And not only do I always loop, I'm always destroying the sound in some way, and I'm always chopping it up, and I'm always pitching it and doing that. That's the way around it right now. You can still get it. I'm sitting here telling people how to cheat the system, but
it's all right though. They're going to get this game. Give them the game.
But that's how you do it. If you're sampling a producer, you don't just take the record and just loop. It's just like using sample packs.
Oh, yeah.
You don't just use the sample pack and drop it in and put a drum break on it. No, that's not smart at all. One, it's neither here nor there, but that's not smart. Just from a business side standpoint of music production. But no, it's this doesn't even surprise me. I knew it was coming. Mm-hmm. The systems are already out there. The fact that, to be honest, this technology's probably already been out there for a minute.
What about his method when he talked about running audio directly from his PC into Google Assistant and using BlueStacks? And does that? I mean, it's all the end results the same, right?
So, I mean, what's going to happen is that this is going to turn into some sort of software that it's just going to run automatically. So is it? I didn't read. Is this running? This is working through a Discord server right now, right?
The Discord is just a group of people that just hunt samples.
Oh, okay.
So one of them stumbled up on this. So it was just conversation in Discord. So whatever the group is, this DJ Pasta person figured this out.
The technology has kind of already been there for a long time. It's just figuring out how to present it to people.
If I'm not mistaken, in this article, he came up on this, I think in 2022, later portion of 2022. He said, but it wasn't until mid-2022 that Google's song recognition turned from another mid-Shazam alternative to groundbreaking discovery. So
think about the other AI stuff that's brand new, like when you talk about Serato stems, to where you can stem out songs now in a DJ program, which is a great tool.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, if you reverse engineer that and think about, okay, well, if the technology can break all this stuff down by element, drum, kick, snare,
Vocals.
hi-hat, vocal,
Mm-hmm.
melody, piano. Imagine reversing that around. The technology is already there to detect what those things are. So
Now you can't even steal drums. You know what I'm saying?
no, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy.
Break, like even like to his point, it's like, can you use breaks now? Like break beats. Will it find those too? Will it start finding those?
well, I mean, technically,
Pretty much already there.
I mean, less break beats.
More samples over break beats.
Realistically, break beats should fall into the same category as sampling. When you sample a break beat, you're still sampling.
True.
It's just not looked at as much. Like the people that are like anti-sampling don't really care as much about that because there's never been a way to really detect it. Now, what I will say is this. Here's the difference. The reason why all these things can be picked up is because they have a frequency.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really kind of frequency based. Drums do have frequencies, but technically speaking, the difference between, let's say I'm getting super technical here. The difference between a kick drum and an 808 drum is what? It's a bass frequency in there, right?
Right.
So if a kick drum is just like a thump from like a kick pedal, an 808 is a kick pedal plus a bass note being played. So there's like literally a frequency on it. But there's really no like resonating frequency on a lot of these breakbeat sounds, especially if they're tweaked a little bit. So as far as like being able to pick up on frequency, it's more pattern based as opposed to frequency based. I know it's getting super nerdy.
It's all right.
It's getting super nerdy right now.
It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
But as far as like the drums are concerned, I think you'd be okay using them for the most part. But I look at this and I'm taking up too much time, but I feel like realistically looking at this is something that I don't think it should scare anybody. I think people should look at this in a way, unless maybe you have a historic catalog and you're somebody that was making records in the 80s and the 90s and stuff like that, right? It's problematic in more than just in a handful of ways, and the ethics around it are a very interesting conversation because we talk about how hip hop was created and the necessity to sample records to create music to begin with, right?
Foundation.
It's the foundation of it. So that's why sample snitching is such frowned upon by a lot of people that were around in that era, because I came after that era, but I understand like the roots of it, right?
What was the Gang Starr record where after the song goes off, Primo comes back on and you hear him saying, stop talking.
That's on Moment of Truth.
Moment of Truth. Yeah, like where he just comes in, he's like, man, stop telling, about the sample. I'm paraphrasing, but, stop snitching on these records and stuff like that.
Discovering the sample is one thing, but to expose, where I got it from or whatever, I'm just not with that. I think it's whack. For so many different reasons.
But to Lone's point about that always being a part of it.
This is the real repercussions of sample snitching culture, is that these legends that you love sampling for in the first place, you're going to mess up their bag. Mm-hmm. You're going to get them sued by these companies based upon what they're doing for the culture that you love.
Like imagine someone said, hey, we're going to start running old hip hop albums through this algorithm and through this AI. And
let's see what we can find.
We're going to find out everything that, the Bomb Squad used on Nation of Millions. Yep. We're going to find out everything that was used on Paul's Boutique.
And they're going to retroactively go back.
And they're going to retroactively, like, say if it could be something new, or it might be a small indie release. And then like somebody decides, and what it does, it incentivizes corporate interest. And like this could be me just taking it there. Is it incentivizes corporate interest to make sure this AI is perfected, and they run every new hip hop album through this to see if there's any money that they are owed.
So to that point, that's already happening with YouTube's Content ID. It's already happening. So there, even with my distributor that I work with, I had an incident a couple years ago to where I had to reach out to them because they took all my Content ID off of everything because something had a match on it. I was like, okay, I didn't realize that, and I got it worked out with them. But I have certain releases that I have released already through my label that have no Content ID match on them at all, and other ones that do. And the reason behind it is because they don't want to deal with the legal troubles that are going to potentially come from those potential issues, because it's not just YouTube. There's a third-party company that's out there that runs all these content ID checks and everything. It's big business already. So to Jay's point, it's already happening. The thing that worries me is how it can affect. I think moving forward, I think we have a path, but I think the thing that is kind of like controversial to me is like it could screw up people's livelihoods that built an entire career, built an entire, like, sampling was made off of something that was doing something that was technically illegal,
right,
but it created an entire culture out of it. And so
and remember also that as sampling grew and became lucrative or more lucrative for the artists, whoever producers, whoever was sampling, it also became a thing where the artists were starting to get their just due and get their royalties and get paid for these samples too, which is a good, like, it didn't start off that way, but people they tell you now, like, don't sample Stevie. He's going to crack you over the head. Don't even think about it, right? If they find it, you about to get cracked over the head.
And plus Stevie doesn't want, he has to personally approve of your sample.
Aretha Franklin was like that. Like if she didn't agree with the content or what you was talking about, she wouldn't clear.
We talked about how like if you listen to like School Spirit off of Kanye's first album, and you're like, why is this the one song that's censored? Is because that was something that was a stipulation of being able to clear that sample through Aretha.
Or we talked about
Miss Fat Booty.
Yes, Most Def. Yeah.
I mean, there's only one curse word in that song, but if you buy the album, the unedited version of the album, that one song is censored.
I'll be honest with you, Lone. The whole article, I'm not necessarily shocked because I know everything that you talked about has been trending that way. What threw me off was the small samples being recognized as small chops. Now that kind of threw me for a loop there, because we've always thought, man, if you chop it up, you filter it, you whatever,
right,
you should be straight. That's the running theme, like you talk about. But dude, if they can start finding the chops, that's a whole
different
thing.
That takes the thing that I was talking about of putting people's livelihoods, because there's a whole bunch of producers. I think that's realistically, I mean, look, chopping stuff up, there is this inherent that music producers have when they chop records, saying, I'm going to flip this. It's not just because they love chopping records. It's also there's a mysteriousness about it, so that one, can this person figure it out? And two, can I hide it in case somebody's going to come after me? That's just there, right?
Yep.
And so this is opening that conversation up even that much more. Like, if you can find it just off 1 second, that's crazy.
That's scary, man.
But I think the solution is, if you're a producer that does this, is you just have to get more creative with your chops. You have to start pitching stuff. You have to legitimately make it your own in that aspect. And not saying that chopping in any specific way isn't doing that, but you have to legitimately change it to the point to where it is not recognizable.
Yeah.
That's the only solution. And realistically, I think that's probably a good way to go, because then don't get me wrong, I'm not here advocating for people to steal people's music and make a bunch of money off of it. Like if I sample Aerosmith and it's like literally the drums of Walk This Way, you know what I mean? And then I make 1 million records, I expect them to sue me.
There's no doubt about it.
And they should.
They should.
You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that that's not a thing. I'm just saying, like, you know, there's multiple nuance and levels here.
The saying used to be, don't worry about it until they come get you. That's over with.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Oh yeah, that was over.
On any level you can with today's technology. I don't care who you are.
Look, that was over with after the Turtles came after De La Soul on their first album.
Oh,
okay. That was you know, that was a wrap for that.
I forgot about that.
But
they came at their head.
But to your point, with technology, you know, like, it's getting to the point now, and it might actually get to that point sooner than later, that you can maybe chop up a record if they start instituting technology like this into these content ID platforms. They might just deny you might not even be able to hit streaming platforms.
True.
They might just cut you off right there and be like, you can't upload this because this has a copyright connected to this, and we've already automatically have a database of everybody that's connected to.
It's already flagged. It's already flagged.
Already going to be flagged off the top, and so the stuff that you work so hard on.
Now imagine
give it away for free.
Imagine it being the 1st of March, and you work on a project from March until August. Submitted in September. It's 12 records. 8 of them get flagged and you can't upload your project.
Yep. Well, yeah, that's
what I mean. Like, could you?
That's now.
That's that. So what I'm saying is this is happening, and Go Banator's in the chat. We've had this conversation before.
Yeah, for sure.
And And a lot of times in the early days when I was kind of anti-sample pack and stuff like that, it's not that I'm anti-sample pack. It's just like you're setting yourself up to fail if you just use a sample and you're not like a pack from a sample or just a song and you're not flipping it in some crazy type of way. So be smart, you know.
Read if you're a producer or a musician or whatever. On these sample packs, please read the fine print in terms of licensing and what happens if and what numbers need to be hit before they come after this or that. Because what I've noticed with some of those is a lot of people will just jump in and I'm like, dude, you might want to read the specifics before you use the sample pack because it can come back to hurt you if you don't read it. And some of them, like I saw a couple of them and there's a huge PDF. And it breaks down levels of success, basically, and when we gonna come for you.
Yeah.
Right? So if you ignore that and just get to chopping, you might get a surprise. For real.
Yeah, I mean, it's just got to think about it ahead of time. And another thing I'll say really quickly for all those that are interested in this nerd talk is right now Content ID pretty much works. I've seen it work as quick as 4 or 5 seconds, but most of the time it works between 8 and 15. Sometimes it doesn't kick until 15 and 20, 25 seconds. But imagine if that starts happening at just 1 second. You know what I mean? And that creates issues not only for musicians,
but for content creators.
But content creators like us, because, or just like anybody, because you're going to get flagged all over the place. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing.
No more reaction videos.
Or unless you have, exactly.
Unless you have license to do so.
Yeah. So it's going to change the whole scape. The meta is going to change and continually change. So
we always talk about, and this is not necessarily as it relates to production, but just, the space that we're in as creatives and, we always talk about evolution. Stuff changes so fast now. Everything that you're talking about, Lone, dude, it could either be in place if it isn't already in the next year, or it might be something completely different from what this article is talking about within the next year.
Yeah.
Like that's where we are.
The interesting thing is maybe this technology where it can find everything by a fraction of a second already exists.
It might.
But maybe they don't implement it because of what type of impact it's going to have, not only on music, but like content creation and the storm that it's going to create from not just musicians, but like
the ramifications would be, if they, like you said, if this was a rollout, it'd be crazy.
Imagine YouTube's like customer service if all of a sudden like 3 million or 500 million creators get copyright claims against stuff that should be fair use.
I wouldn't,
but isn't. So that's the kind of I don't know.
I wouldn't want to be in that building.
Yeah,
I'd say that.
Smooth Hoosier says, "Do y'all always know where your samples come from?" I would say early on when I was sampling all the time, no, I couldn't tell you.
I keep track.
I keep a folder of I literally have a folder and I would just like scroll through. It's just like digging for records.
Yep.
And whenever I found something good, I would drag it in. And so it's like it was a multi-step process for me to where like I would spend time going and find albums, putting them on my hard drive, and then when it was creation time, I would just scroll through and find stuff. So there's records I put out. I don't know where they came from.
I usually I do the exact same thing, but I always make sure that it's not. Sometimes they used to have sites, blogs where you could just download, how we will find albums that are just posted. You can scroll through like blog posts. Yeah. You'll have them categorized by years, right? So you go in and you grab an album. Sometimes I've opened some of those folders where they'll have the exact titles of the records. Sometimes it'll be number 1, song A, number 2, song B. I stayed away from those because it's like, I don't know if this track list is right. When you put it in Ableton, you can see the name of the song on the wave. So if you get out here sampling and going crazy and you don't know where the record came from, what happens?
Yeah. That goes into you being upset at me being organized.
Definitely. 100%.
Because everything that I've ever downloaded like that in the past,
the step I should have taken was downloaded it and then researched the track list to make sure everything matched. Yeah. But what organized people do. Yeah, I guess.
And Smooth Hoosier says, just wondering if it would not seem fair to be sued for a sample you didn't know what you're using. I understand that, but at the same time, like you're doing it, as the producer, you have to do your due diligence.
Yep. Yeah.
They don't care. They don't care. Yeah, they don't care.
Like, I didn't know. I was like, well, you about to find out.
You about to find out, 100%. Yep. Yeah. So just hold this L. We'll see you in court.
Yep.
And then, because still the wildest story to me is, when 𝗏𝗏 and Peter Guns did Deja Vu.
Oh, man.
And they got found out. It's like, okay, you can keep it out. You can put it on your album, but we get 100% of your publishing and songwriting.
Yep.
So basically,
it
they
says
just
the
gave
members of Steely Dan wrote that entire song. There's no songwriting credit for the one song, your one hit on your, you know.
When I tell you that's the record I know them for, that's the record.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally, that's the record.
You know, and they put out some more records after that, but
they ain't hit like that one.
it didn't hit like that. And so the one song that you have that's a hit, you do not get any, no
You don't
publishing,
get a
no song,
dime off
no
that.
no mechanicals, nothing. It says somebody else wrote it.
And you got to realize that was the culture at the time.
Yeah.
It's not like they were doing anything that other people weren't doing.
So
it just happened to pop, and it just happened to be.
It went from white label to being put out on. It happened so fast they didn't get the paperwork in order.
So the only person that actually kind of ate from the transaction was the producer that maybe got a fee for the beat up front. After that, everybody else don't get anything.
Yeah, after that, no. It's,
you know what I'm saying?
Steely Dan,
that is a Steely Dan song. If Steely Dan wanted to put that on their greatest hits album or anthology,
if I was them, I would. If I'd just be petty and put that mug on there because they got 100%. What 𝗲𝗄𝗔𝗗𝗦 gonna say?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
That's why he's doing reality TV shows.
That's definitely what he's doing. Whatever
Just
happened to Corey Guns, man? He used to.
That's Peter Guns.
No, I'm talking about whatever happened to his son,
I don't
Corey
know.
Guns.
Oh, that was his son?
Yeah, correct. You didn't know that was Peter Guns' son.
I didn't
His
know
name is
Corey
Corey Guns.
I mean, you know.
Yeah,
Corey Guns can
There's
rap though.
900 littles. All there.
Yeah,
you're right about that. Yeah. Corey Guns can rap though. He has some.
Yeah,
I
remember
mean, he must
Corey.
have got lost in the shuffle of all that, you know,
Blog area.
Lil
Lower.
Wayne, Cash Money, whatever.
Hey,
Anyways.
that was a time. All right, man. So we got about. I don't know what noise that was.
I'm gonna come back and read this article because this
article is dope, bro.
Super interesting.
Yeah, this article is dope. I knew you'd like this one.
It's gonna do. We're gonna have
6 views on this one.
We might have a hot 66 total views on YouTube when this comes out.
Too much game given out. Too much healthy conversation on this one.
Our conversation was it Big Gip and.
Oh yeah, the stuff Gip was saying.
Yeah, rumors always do well.
Yeah,
rumor stuff. This is what it is.
I don't know, man. I couldn't pass on this one, bro. This was a good you broke down a lot of stuff, bro. This is a good conversation. I hope it's some creatives out there that'll appreciate it because this was dope.
Okay.
All right, man. That's gonna do it for this show. We appreciate the support as always. Shout out to the chat, and as Jay Moore said, Patreon. If you see us on anything, like it, subscribe, sign up, share it. We really appreciate the support as always. And we'll see y'all next week. Peace.
Yeah.
So long.